All right, welcome to the Ikigai Essentials podcast. I'm Oliver Ike, joined by Bill Wang. So we're here today to talk. So it's Mental Health Awareness Month this month. It's also AAPI month, which we didn't really talk about, and it's almost the end of the month. So we probably could have done a little bit more than we did this month, but hopefully we can get one more episode in before the end of the month. But today I wanted to kind of talk a little bit. We wanted to talk a little bit more about something else, kind of related to mental health, but in a different way. So one of our goals was kind of like to talk about holistic health. So today we're going to focus in a little bit more on kind of diet and nutrition and how that all kind of plays out and plays a factor into our daily lives. So Bill, like, how do you, just in
Yeah,
general, so you had a birthday recently. Everyone's getting older. Like, how do you
absolutely.
feel kind of about your diet? Have things changed for you in regards to like what you can eat, what you can't eat, your mindset going into meals and things like that?
Yeah, like right before we started recording here, you asked me how my diet was, and my response was simply terrible. Um, I say that because I don't know. I feel like we'll dive in this a little bit deeper as we progress in this podcast here. But your mood, your emotions, your mental well being is correlated with your diet. And I think for me, it's just like so much going on. As you mentioned, it's already end of May. Time flies. The kids are almost out of school. Summer's right around the corner, but it's just so much going on. And I feel like it's been like just constantly moving, constantly grinding, constantly doing something and no time to rest. So, with that said, it just impacts my diet. And I just feel like sometimes with all this stuff going on, I feel like sugary drinks, and I rarely drink sodas. Before I used to only drink soda maybe once or twice a month. But if I'm going through all this stuff, I feel like something just sugary, like a soda or something just to get me going, just to crave, to satisfy that craving. Another thing is, with all this stuff going on, I just feel like I don't have much time to sit down and have a proper lunch or dinner. I just immediately have to get up, go pick up the kids, do something, call somebody, whatever, right? So I turn to something like a cheeseburger or something that's not as healthy for me. And honestly, it just impacts the way I feel physically
Hmm.
and mentally. So yeah,
How do
my
you
diet
how do you
hasn't been
feel
too good, to
after
be
like
honest with me.
after you have like a cheeseburger? How do you feel?
For a minute, I feel like I'm a rock's lifted off my shoulder, right? Like I'm not as stressed or anxious or depressed anymore. Momentarily, mentally, I feel that way, but physically, it's just stomach's bloated, cramping, indigestion, all you name it, right? I'm just having a lot of
Hmm.
these issues. So I think it just satisfies me for a minute, but then immediately I'm like I regret it, and I feel the impacts of it right afterwards.
Hmm. Have you spent like extended periods of time in Taiwan?
Yeah, when I was the longest I've ever stayed there was probably about 6, 7 weeks when I was in high
Hmm.
school. That was
And
the longest I ever stayed there.
how did your body change while you were living there for that long?
I don't know if it's maybe the food, it probably tastes like my mom and grandma's cooking. Maybe I'm used to it, but I felt a lot better. And now that I think of it, I think really is because I was in vacation mode during that time. Like I don't have to deal with schoolwork, career, whatever it may be. I'm just kind of like cruising along in Taiwan. So I think there's a lot of correlation there as I'm more relaxed there. It was funny. We just had a couple friends over last night. They're from Taiwan too. They're living in San Diego. We're going to see them over there in Taiwan as well. But I told them like every time I land in the Taiwan airport, I just feel like happy. I feel like I'm home. And I just feel like everything, all the stress and struggles are kind of just out the window for the time being.
Hmm.
So to answer your question, when I'm in Taiwan overseas, I feel like I'm fine. I can eat whatever, and it
Hmm.
doesn't really affect me that much versus when I'm here
So you
at
don't have
home.
like cravings for like unhealthy food in Taiwan
Not
as
as
much.
much. No, maybe like I said, it's probably more like home cooking for me. Kind of reminds me of my mom or my grandma's food and all that. So there's plenty of options, but I don't crave like a big juicy cheeseburger or like a bottle of soda with all that sugar in it. I don't have those cravings, and I think
Hmm.
really is maybe it's because I'm more relaxed and my mental
Hmm.
well being is probably in a better place at that point.
Hmm. Yeah. Interesting.
It is. It
Yeah.
is.
I mean, it might be access too, right? Like here, if you live here,
Yeah.
anywhere you go, you can get like a burger or like a slice of pizza like pretty easily. Like I'm assuming it's not quite that easy in Taiwan, or is that not true?
It is, but there's not like a McDonald's every half a mile or something like that. It's not like
Hmm.
drive-throughs all over the place because there's not much space in Taiwan for those drive-throughs. But there's all food stands over the place. They're open like 24 hours. You can get it any time. But I think it
Hmm.
is just access wise. I don't have to like, oh, there's the only option I have is a McDonald's or a Burger King or something like that. I
Hmm.
have other
Hmm.
things like a xiaolongbao or some kind of
Hmm.
noodle dish that's a little bit better.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, so I've lived in Japan for probably like a year. Well, no, like for probably like 3 years at the
Yeah, you were there
longest.
for a while.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it just seems like here in America we have like a very unhealthy relationship with food, just like in
Yeah,
general. So yeah, so I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that. So we have like all these kind of like different rules, I think, just like in general that we think about, like grains are like bad, basically. Like that, I think that is like a common conception is that bread, rice, pasta can make you fat. I feel like that's kind of like the general feeling. But then looking at and you can speak to Taiwan, but looking at the Japanese diet, it's rice every meal. Um,
similar.
there's also pasta. You can get spaghetti and all the pastas. A lot of people eat bread like all the time.
Same.
So it's not like those things don't exist. And then just living there for, you know, I think the first time I lived there was for like about a year and a half. And I think I lost 40 pounds.
Wow.
Um, and that was just, you move more, you're more active, like you walk more places. I had like a bike. So you're definitely more active in your daily life. But like for your nutrition, your diet, I was never like really careful, like super careful about like what I was eating, or if I was hungry, I would eat. If um, so there was never this kind of like guiltiness. I would say that I think you kind of talked about a little bit
Yeah.
just now is kind of like that guilt. Like even if I ate like a little too much in Japan, it was never really like a big deal. I would say it didn't like throw me off. So there's a lot of differences as well, like with the diets here in Japan, but that one kind of no that we kind of all think about in terms of like carbs, that's that's like a non-factor, I feel like,
Yeah.
because rice, bread, pasta, all those things.
Same. Similar in Taiwan too. I think another thing is also like portion size, right? Like you come here in the US, it's just huge. Some of my family and friends come visit, they're like, that could feed like two, three
Hmm.
people,
Hmm.
but that's like one person's order, right? Um, I feel the same way. Like when I'm in Taiwan or Asia, right? It's probably like you said, it's I'm walking all the time. It's hot there, so I sweat a lot, so that kind of helps burn off the calories as well. But I don't feel like the guilt or the effects of eating those things. Because like I said, I love noodles and rice, and that's pretty much what I eat every day, and a lot of gluten and all that. But I don't get those same effects versus if I
Hmm.
eat something here.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. I mean, some of that is probably due to age as well. Like,
could be.
but yeah. And then I think so. One thing that I also wanted to focus on. So there's a book that I read pretty recently. It's called "You Can't Screw This Up." I think I mentioned this before, but I'm part of this group that's was created by Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's called the Pump Club, where there's like an app you can subscribe to, but there's also a daily newsletter. And Adam is one of the members of the team, and he's very well versed and very knowledgeable in terms of like health and fitness. So so one of the things that we kind of talk about quite a bit in like conversations in the Pump Club is like so we I think we all have an idea of kind of how we should be eating. So when people and that's why there's so many different kinds of diets, like paleo and keto and all these different diets. Um, but I think the problem with the diet is they're temporary.
Yeah,
It's not a diet if it's something that you start and then you eventually get off of. That means it's a temporary thing. So a lot of these diets are still around because they're effective for some people, but not long term. So I think for us, maybe more than I'm not sure. Maybe more than other countries, we're always looking for like a quick fix.
definitely.
So I have colleagues and coworkers who trying to lose weight, and they're like, "Oh, I'm fasting today," or "I'm on keto, I'm on paleo," and every other week it's a different thing. And if you don't, maybe you see, maybe you lose 5 pounds in the first month or something like that, and you feel good and you keep doing it, but eventually your body will adjust and you'll stop losing weight, and then you'll get frustrated, and then you'll probably go to a different diet or jump off completely. So the thing I think that I really want to focus on is that we know that we're supposed to eat a certain way. We know that we're supposed to avoid certain things, but like the fact of the matter is that we're not machines, right? So we're people. We have issues. We have stress. We're very flawed. And then another thing that we don't really think about is that. So, and this is coming directly from the book. So food is not just physiological; it's emotional,
Mm,
right? And then, until you accept that and make peace with that, no plan will ever fully work. So I think that plays into exactly what you were saying earlier,
definitely.
Bill. Is that when you and there's science behind fat, right? Fat is something that we actually our body craves, right? Because it helps keep us alive in times of like famine and starvation. So it's something that our body seeks, and a certain we need fat to survive. Obviously there are limits and levels to that. And then sugar, it's a straight carb, right? So it creates energy and we feel good
Hmm.
right away, dopamine, all that stuff. So there's definitely science behind it. But we're emotional people, and I think if you don't factor that in when you're thinking about your nutrition, you're gonna fail at some point.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like, let me ask you this. I'll just start thinking, like, have you started implementing a lot of the things that you learned from that book? Like, how has it impacted your diet? Obviously, like, are you still kind of watching out for what you eat? Or, I mean, I like as I get older, I feel like I should, but it's hard to do.
Hmm.
Like you said, we're humans at the end of the day. We're not a robot where I can just program A, B, and C and do those things.
Yeah. So I think you just have to be kind of realistic and understand that nutrition and diet, it's not like for a month. I mean, you can have maybe goals. I think that could also be helpful.
Sure.
So we actually did something. So Arnold Schwarzenegger has like a show on Netflix called Fubar. So like in order to prepare for that role, he wanted to get in really good shape. So his dietitian created like this nutrition plan for him, and then they shared it with everyone who's in the community. We all kind of did it together, and I would say that doing that through that, I was probably in maybe the best shape I've ever been in my life.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, another thing we talk about like holistic health and fitness. People like I go to the gym every morning for the most part, like probably 5 days a week, and you see people just like killing themselves like in the gym every morning,
Yeah.
which is great. But I'm I'm assuming many of them are probably not happy with kind of like their physique or kind of where they are, and I can imagine a conversation that they have with themselves where they're like, I'm in the gym, 5 days a week every morning, like just going really, really hard, and I'm not seeing any results. I mean, the fact of the matter is, working out and exercise, I would say it's probably about 10% of the entire pie of physical health.
Fair. Agreed.
Um, I would say, I would say sleep is actually probably number one. if you're not getting adequate sleep, it messes your body up in like so many different ways. And that's something most people have control over. Not everyone, but that's something most people have control over. So I think it's really easy to like get on this fitness plan, and there's so many out there. If you go on TikTok, there's like, tons of people who just do like 20-minute workouts, or like how to get like, the bubble butt. There's all these different things like how do
Yep.
you do this and how you do that. So it's really easy to like, okay, I'm going to go to gym, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to get there. But that's like the third step. Exercise is like the third thing you need to kind of get in line in order to get into good shape and feel and look the way you want it. It's really sleep, nutrition, and then fitness. And I
Absolutely.
think a lot of people are like missing out on those two different things, where because you can't outwork a bad diet, and that's something that's kind of
Yeah.
universally known. But I don't know if a lot of people, because it takes time to do all these things. Like, you get your sleep. Are you sleeping at least 7 hours a night? Are you being honest with yourself? Like, are you really doing that? Once you get that to a good place, you kind of check in and see how you feel. Maybe
Yeah.
do like a journal and see, okay, over this month, this is how it looked. This is how I feel. And then you get your nutrition. I mean, hopefully you can kind of do those things together. But your nutrition, okay, like how am I eating? How does that look? How do I feel? How do I look? And then you can kind of implement. I think a lot of people do it backwards.
Absolutely. And I've seen that too, right? Like even I went through this period of my life once is I feel like I just got to go to the gym an hour, burn all these calories. I'm going to lose weight and get more fit, right? But I would like starve myself. I would eliminate sugars and carbs and just wait until later on and eat or just eat a light meal. But like you said, it's backwards. Your body needs carbs. Your body needs the sugar. Obviously, you don't want, 10 Snicker bars in one day or something like that, but you need all of that. So that is important to get you going. And I've noticed that, when I have been eating a better breakfast and then going to the gym, I see better results. Versus if I don't, I'm sluggish. I'm like, oh, I'm hungry and my stomach's growling. I don't even want to work out. So it's kind of a waste of my time. So there's a lot of correlation. And I do agree with you that a lot of people do it backwards, thinking that, boom, let's just hit the gym. I'm going to start seeing the results. But it doesn't happen that way. And I think that's
Right.
the problem here. Like, speaking of which, like in Japan, Taiwan, Asia, the different mindset about eating versus here is you look at fast food in the US, it's just billion-dollar industry. Tons of fast food joints. It's just a quick fix. Go and order, pay your bill, grab your food, you're done. But it's not the healthiest of choice, but it's the fastest and the easiest. And I think that's another mindset that people have to get used to is things take time to progress and see those results. You can't just rely on fast food every day. You got to have, a healthy meal that takes time to prep and cook to get that nutrition ready. And, that would, you'll see better results at the end if you go that route.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so like, yeah. So we're focusing on nutrition right now. But yeah, it's so another person that I kind of follow is his name is Jeff Cavalier. I think a lot of people who are into fitness probably know who he is. He has a YouTube channel. It's athlete. His website's athletex.com, I believe. But he's been. I think he was like one of the head trainers for like Cleveland Indians, like a baseball
Mm,
team or something. So he's very knowledgeable, and he's been in the fitness space for a long time. I don't remember exactly what he said, but he was basically like, when you're talking about like nutrition, something, I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember exactly, but he was basically like, so cheap, healthy, and fast. He's like, you can only have two of the three,
mm-hmm.
so you need to kind of choose. So basically, those are your choices, right? So if you want to eat healthy, and the best way to do that is to cook. That takes time. Or if you want to buy that kind of food, like if you want to go to like wherever, like Erewhon or wherever, and buy a healthy meal, it's expensive. It's not cheap, right? So you have to be able to kind of figure out like how that looks for you. So if you know that time is your biggest enemy and you have the means, that's kind of what you probably need to do. You need to probably, go to like a really healthy meal service delivery or something like that, just so that you'll have things kind of ready for you when you get hungry, when you get home and you're stressed out, and you know, really easy to order a pizza. But if you have like a very healthy meal like in the fridge waiting for you,
Yep.
that's your option. So I think it's like removing kind of barriers to kind of get you to where you want to be, but just knowing that emotion is going to play a factor. Like
Yep.
starving yourself, you may get results, but it's not realistic like long term. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, it's really easy to say, okay, I'm going to do this. This is what I'm going to eat. Eggs for breakfast. I'm gonna have a protein shake for lunch, and then dinner I'll have like some salmon and I don't know, some salad. It sounds very, very simple when you kind of just like write it down or just speak it, right?
Yeah.
But you don't think about maybe that work assignment that you get at 4:50 right before you're ready to go home. Your wife maybe can't pick up the kids. She asks you to do it. You get a flat tire, like all these things are that could happen at any point. They're gonna throw you off.
Yeah.
So like, how do you like pivot quickly so that you can still kind of follow your goals and kind of maintain?
Yeah. No, I mean, you mentioned cheap, fast, and healthy, right? Those three. What's the easiest? What are the easiest choices, right? I mean, cheap and fast. That's the quick, dirty way. And it's hard to do that though. It's hard to program it. Like, let me ask you this, Oliver. Like I said, this month for me personally, it's just been like birthday parties, school parties, end of year parties, kids activities. Got to go pick up this uniform, blah blah blah. All those things. I think cheap and fast was the only thing that I have right now at this point. Like, how do you get around that? It's just hard to program your mind, especially with all those things going on. And then for me, I just feel like cheap and fast, that's the route I'm going to take now. I just dig myself deeper and deeper into that hole. It's harder to get out of that, to go to the
Mm-hmm.
other side and pick the healthy options, or spend more time to cook up a healthy salmon dinner or something like
Yeah,
that. Just so much going on. It's just like a rat race every day, I feel like.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not easy for
Yeah.
sure, and I think the options that we have are not great sometimes. So, and then yeah, I mean, it's all about. I think it's all about thinking long term.
Yeah.
So, if you're stressed out, or if you had a birthday recently, you probably got a birthday cake. Like,
Yeah.
what, have birthday cake. You know what I mean? On your birthday, it's your birthday,
Yeah.
have a slice of cake. You know what I mean? Like, if you're at like a work event or like a friend's whatever event, there's cake there. Maybe you don't have cake. But I think like depriving yourself when there's an opportunity to celebrate, I think that's very unhealthy.
Totally agree.
Um, it's just about like enjoying those moments and then getting back on track. So the tricky part and the kind of the destructive part is when a cheat meal turns into a cheat day, turns into a cheat weekend. You
Turns
know what
into
I
a
mean?
cheap
Like you just
month,
have to
and
like
then
cut it
you're,
off. Like
yep.
exactly. Like because like the weekend, that's like 25% of the week. I think people think, okay, I ate healthy during the week. I'm just gonna like do whatever on the weekend. That's like 25% of the
Yeah.
like the complete week, right? So you can't really do that. But it's okay. Like if you want, whatever your do you have like a is there something like what's your meal, like your go-to meal that is not good for you but you love it? Or like a
Right
food or
now,
whatever, like
like
yeah.
I would think like a California burrito with French
Mm,
fries and extra cheese and guacamole and sour cream and all that in there, right?
okay.
That would be like my cheat meal, I would say.
Yeah, yeah. So if there's something you love, maybe just find some way to put a limit on it
Agreed.
in some way, but
Yeah.
not complete removal.
Yeah.
Maybe you eat half of it or something, or you do once a month, or
Yep.
maybe something like that. So for me, like I love like tortilla chips, like homemade tortilla chips, like that you get from the restaurant. I can eat like a whole bag of those.
Mm-hmm.
But so for me, it's just like just don't buy them. Like if I buy them, I know I'll eat the whole thing, and that usually comes when I'm stressed out. When I get home, I actually told my daughter the other day, it's like, if you see me eating tortilla chips, that means I'm stressed out. So like, tell me to stop. Because I think it's important to know your weaknesses too, right? So
Absolutely.
that you can be real with whatever your struggles are. But another thing I wanted to kind of touch on, we talk about these quick fixes. So I'm a believer in, if I think knowing like where you are in terms of your weight, I think it's helpful. It shouldn't be everything, but I think it's helpful. So I donate blood and platelets like every two. I try to go 2 times a month. So they always weigh me when I go in there, and that's kind of my marker. So I check my weight basically every 2 weeks. Anything more than that is not going to give you like a good indication of kind of where you are, because I think especially for probably Asian people, we tend to like uh, retain water quite a bit.
Hmm.
So if you have like a salty meal the night before and you weigh yourself in the morning, that's not a good indicator of kind of where you're at, really, your weight. So that's kind of the first thing. But like we talk about these quick fixes, and even like a week, I don't know how helpful that is. Like weighing yourself every week, because it's the long game. Like how did I do over these 2 weeks? And if you're trying to lose weight, you're only really looking at maybe like a pound or two a week, like sustainably, right? And I think for most people, that's not enough progress, right? If you, after a month, if you're only losing maybe 2 to 3 pounds, I think a lot of people would feel that's a failure, which, if you look at the long term, it's not true, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so I wanted to, so one thing that actually bothers me quite a bit is like all these kind of like fad kind of things that you see.
You're talking
So
about like,
right now, I don't know if it's the same in like San Diego, but LA is like seed oils are like the devil. Um, and it's just not true. Like if you can look at the research, I was actually reading up on this before we started doing this, and it's just not true. Like any kind of oil, you need to obviously have in
yeah,
moderation, but it's just not true. Like all these things that people are saying, it's like a inflammatory. It's just not. Like you can look it up for yourself, but a lot of people like will pull these things for like marketing tactics, and then you see it everywhere. I think I can't remember, but like if you see something 3 to 5 times, you start believing it. So now there's like a lot of people are using that as a marketing tool, and then people start believing it, and then now companies have to take it out because no one's buying their product anymore, and it's just like this kind of crazy thing that I think we do like every chance we get. Really, the seed oils now. I don't
yeah,
know what's next, but that's something that kind of bothers me quite a bit that I wanted to bring up.
yeah. One thing that really bothers me lately is like you hear this all the time on TV and whatnot. Ozempic, Wegovy, or whatever these what those pills are. Like it's a quick fix. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, yeah, it might work for you now. I actually know some people who's dropped, 15, 20 pounds over the months, but I'm thinking about the long-term effects. You don't know what's going to happen to your body down the road. Yes, it might work now, but in a year or two, how it's going to affect your body. But it's just that whole mindset of having that quick fix. And I think, like I said earlier, the whole fast food industry is go through the drive-through, pay for it, eat in the car, go back to work. It's a quick fix. You're full. You're done for the day for lunch. Same thing as these dieting pills. Same thing as the whole fad about seed oil and all that. It's all these quick fixes that is ingrained in people's mind, and they think that's the best way. But there's other ways.
Hmm. Yeah. So so that I think that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this. It was just that, um, just to give yourself some grace.
Absolutely,
If you have a donut, it's not the end of the world. Like don't just throw
absolutely.
everything out the window. But also just kind of know that I think there's sacrifices that you need to make. So like when I was doing the diet I mentioned before, like I had like a 6 pack, probably under 10% body fat, but it's really hard to maintain that. So when you're looking at like magazines and like looking online and you see like people with like these ripped physiques, those people are like starving themselves. So like you have to be honest with yourself. Is it worth it for you
Hmm.
to like live like that? And you're probably going to be in a bad mood because you're like hungry all the time. So I think you just kind of there's like a balance. I think, and I think for most people, like having that kind of physique is not it's not reasonable because of how you're going to feel on the inside. Um, so yeah, I think that's kind of why I wanted to talk about that. And then it definitely relates to mental health, and food is pleasure as well. Like when you feel down, and like when I'm not feeling great, I'll maybe buy a cup of coffee or something in the morning.
Mhm.
That's usually enough for me. But yeah, if you're not feeling down, if you're feeling down, but there are other things to maybe try first. I always go for like a walk before I feel like an urge to eat something that I probably shouldn't. Go for a walk, have some water, because also maybe you might be dehydrated, right?
Yeah.
So go for a walk, get out into nature, come back, drink a glass of water. Then if you still want it, have it and
Sure.
enjoy it, and then move on, and then get back on track.
Definitely agree. Like one thing I just thought about now is, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, right? He's in great shape. I mean, look at his physique, right? But I remember seeing online like his cheat days or cheat weekends or whatever. This man would eat a plate full of sushi. It was like probably enough to serve 5 to 8 people or something like that. But look how many carbs there are. And then another thing was he had like a plate of brownie chocolate chip cookies or something like that. He just chowed down on it. Um, so it's okay to have those cheat days, and like you said, Oliver, if it makes it easier for people, one thing I used to do is just have an excuse or reason to have that cheat day. For example, last week was my birthday. Okay, I'm going to eat 3 slices of cake. I'm okay with it. It's fine. I'll have 2 beers instead of no beers or something like that. It's fine. Once in a while is okay. So that actually helped me is kind of just find a reason to have those cheat days and just let loose. And at the end of the day, you just know that, hey, that's my day. Next day, just get back on track. And
Hmm.
it kind of makes things easier. And I've
Right.
noticed it does kind of help my mood too. I feel like, throughout the week, there's so much going on. Come that weekend, I'm just going to chow down and eat whatever I want, have a
Hmm.
couple sodas, that's fine. But it kind of just refreshes. Yes, I feel the physical issues afterwards, bloating, discomfort, all that, whatever. But it does kind of make me feel like, okay, it's kind of a reset.
Hmm.
Now that this week's over, next week, just get back on track and start over again, right? It kind of just gets me motivated and going again. So it's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, great. Yeah. So I think, yeah, I just wanted to try something a little different today. So, and I do have a background in like in nutrition. I have it lapsed, but I had a certificate in kind of
Mm-hmm.
body transformation and fitness. So, and nutrition. But yeah, it's something that I think is really important. Because again, we're all about kind of holistic health, and if you eat well, you usually feel well. So
Definitely.
yeah, just find the ways that you can. And I think a lot. So another kind of thing to kind of think about is so when you eat something, it's like these well, like moral choices. So when you think about having whatever, like a slice of pizza or whatever, think maybe, am I caring for self or am I punishing myself with this decision? So sometimes um, I think I just think about like your body, your benefits, because it's okay to have something that you shouldn't have every once in a while, but every once in a while I think is the key word there, because it can easily go from once a week to
Yep.
twice a week to, and then it's hard to realize you're doing it as well. So like once you start putting on like maybe you gain like 5 pounds, it's hard to kind of step back and say, okay, why did that happen? But then when you start removing things, you're like, oh, I see. I
Mm-hmm.
was snacking quite a bit. I wasn't moving as much. Um, but yeah, I think it's all about kind of moderation, realizing we're all human, we're going to make mistakes, but not punishing
Yep.
ourselves, and getting back on track right away instead of waiting
Yeah.
for the end of the weekend or the end of the day or tomorrow or whatever.
And honestly, I don't think they're really punishment. I think people should look at them as rewards, right? Like I said, after a stressful week, it's okay to just sit down and have a beer or a slice of pizza or something. You don't know. Just take that as a reward for what happened throughout the week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I love it.
All right. Anything you want to add before we close it out?
No, just to reiterate, it's Mental Health Awareness Month and AAPI month. So two special times this year, and glad it landed, this month. And we'll try to do another episode next week, just so we can close out and
All
celebrate it
right.
with everybody.
All right. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, and we'll be back soon.
Likewise, thank you again.